Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Wasaga Beach Committee of Adjustment meeting today on Monday, August 15th. I'm Christy, and I will now call the meeting to order. So it's 1:03 p.m. Our first item on the agenda today is to appoint a chair. If anybody is interested in nominating a chair, can they please speak now? Or if you'd like to nominate yourself, then please raise your hand. Or this is
certainly nominate myself, but if anybody else wants to take it on first, support that.
Adam? Good afternoon. Thanks, Andy. So I support your nomination for chair, so I can second that.
all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the vice chair now. Is there anyone that would like to nominate themselves or somebody from the committee?
I can nominate myself for the vice chair.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, and all in favor for, okay. All right, so we have our chair, Andy, and our vice chair, Adam. So I'll hand it over to you now, the chair, Andy. And for the record, please note that I, Christy Wilson, will be the secretary-treasurer.
Thank you, and I look forward to this meeting today, and I look forward to working with everybody, and thank you for that. And just to, before we start, the pecuniary interest, do we go through that now, or was that already done by you?
No, we'll do that now.
Okay. So, is there anyone of the members here pecuniary interest in what anything happening today as far as these applications go?
Yeah, there's one relating to Canadian Tire. That's my understanding. I'd like to not be included in the voting on that.
Okay, well, that's duly noted. I'm sure we can, when it comes time, you can abstain or whatever and go from there. So I think, as Christy had answered earlier, it's either for, against, or not take part in it. So we'll deal with each one of those anyways.
Yeah, it's pieces.
Next, for the adoption of minutes, Chris. So a couple things on the adoption of minutes that I read through them, and because I'm not sure if any of us were at that previous meeting, I think it's just a protocol that we accept the minutes as written. I don't have a comment one way or the other because I wasn't part of that. So I propose we put through the adoption of minutes as they were taken and as they were presented to us, and it's either for, nay, or against. I think is us. Okay. So who wants to? Okay.
I'll second that. Accept it.
I'll move the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Thanks. Okay, so now we've gone through I've gone through them and read them. I think we've all had a chance to take a look at them, and I'm just going to go through the 4.1, and I understand, Chrissy, that you read them out, and then we have a discussion on them, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. Yeah. So let's start with application number 1. Okay, application number 1, A1122, 47 61st Street North. Land subject to the application, Plan 810, Lot 146 to 147, municipally addressed as 47 61st Street North, Town Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe. Purpose and effect. Application for minor variance 1122 was submitted by Randolph O'Quinn and Brenda McDonald, owners of the subject land. The application requests relief from Section 4, Residential Type 1 R1 Zone, 4.3 Zone Provisions of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2003-60 as amended. Specifically, the applicant requests relief from Section 4.3.5 to permit the construction of a detached garage with an interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters, 4.92 feet on the northwest corner, whereas 1.8 meters, 5.9 feet is required. And also Section 4.3.6 to permit the construction of a detached garage with a rear yard setback of 3 meters, 9.84 feet, whereas 7.6 meters, 24.93 feet is required. The variances requested would permit the construction of the 53.5 square meter, 575.87 square foot detached garage with a height of 4.6 meters, 15.5 feet, with a reduced interior side yard setback on the northwest corner and a reduced rear yard setback. Recommendation. In consideration of the foregoing, the Planning Department supports application 1122, subject to the following conditions being applied. That all other provisions of the zoning bylaw be complied with. That any future development on the lot adhere to the current Town of Wasaga Beach standards and policies, including the infill lot grading and drainage policy if required. That a road occupation permit shall be taken out for any works within the right-of-way if required. That the development will be consistent with the conceptual site plan sketch provided with the application shown as Schedule 1 of this report. That the maximum height of the detached accessory structure subject to the application for relief not exceed 4.6 meters or 15.09 feet. That the existing shed or sheds be removed prior to the issuance of building permits, and that an infill lot grading and drainage plan be submitted by the applicant to the town for review and approval at the discretion of the building department if required. Comments. The town's Public Works and Engineering Department does not oppose this application, subject to the conditions outlined in Appendix 1 of this report. We've also received comments from a neighbor, so a public comment, which I'll now read out, from Jen Nightingale. To whom it may concern, thank you for the recent notice pertaining to file A1122, of which I have given due consideration. I appreciate the heads up. Understanding it the way I do, I believe the easement is to tuck it into the back of the property, which will be the most aesthetic way forward. My only request is that we keep the trees as part of this relief, which I have shared with the owner. The tree at the very back and at the very front provide me with privacy and a natural aesthetic, and will also provide natural cover between the proposed garage and my property and the sightlines. You're welcome to contact me if you have any further questions. Thanks, Jen. And do we have anyone from either the gallery? Do we have anyone in the meeting right now that would like to speak to this application?
I'm here, if that's what you're asking, Randy O'Quinn.
Okay. And do you have anything that you'd like to add as well, or?
I believe you've covered most of it, covered all of it.
Okay, wonderful. So then I guess I'll hand it over to you, to the chair, to take a vote.
Okay, so we've heard the application of the 4.1. All those in favor, or is there anyone that has any questions about it? First off, maybe. Okay.
I think we need a mover, seconder, and then take it.
Okay. Yes. Pardon me?
Good afternoon. Thanks for attending. It's Randolph? Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
So one of the concerns was a tree that the neighbor brought forward. Do you know, obviously they've spoken to you about that?
Yes, I have. I have over 20 trees on my lot. The one at the far front, the northwest corner, would be the only one in concern. But that's probably will be in the middle of the driveway. Plus it has a lean to it. So that one may be the only one that has to be removed. Everything else will be here. Like I say, there's over 20 trees on my lot altogether.
So there's just a single tree that will have to be removed to move forward with this application, is that correct?
That's correct.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Okay. We'd have, would someone like to move that motion?
Yes, accept.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Okay, thanks.
Okay, you hear the motion.
Unanimous that it was accepted and passed.
Accepted and passed.
So at this point, I'll just pass around the notice of decision for the committee signature. All right, thank you, Randy. We appreciate you coming today, and you're welcome to sign off if you'd like.
So I take it it's been passed then, yes?
Oh, yes, sorry, yes, it's been passed.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, have a great day.
You too. Bye now. So,
Okay. 5.2, application number 2, the coming up for 129 Shorelane. Okay.
Yep. And, yeah, so we have applicant Ron Fleer here joining us today. So Ron, I will read through the application and all the comments, and then after that, I'll turn it over to you for any additional comments. And I believe we also have, quite a few letters from the public as well, so I'll read through those first. We have a couple. I believe that, yes. All right, file number A2022. Land subject to this application, Plan 965, Lot 60, municipally addressed as 129 Shorelane, Town of Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe. The subject lands have a frontage of approximately 15.24 meters or 50 feet, a depth of 45.79 meters, 150 feet, and an area of approximately 696.96 square meters or 7502.02 square feet. Purpose and effect and the variance requested. Application for minor variance was submitted by Ron Fleer on behalf of Ursula Coolin, the owner of the subject lands. The application requests relief from section 3.23, non-complying lots, buildings, or structures of the comprehensive zoning bylaw 2003-60 as amended. Specifically, the applicant requests relief from section 3.23.3 to recognize the location of the existing dwelling with interior side yard setbacks of 1.8 meters or 3.87 feet along with the southwest property boundary and 1.1 meters or 3.6 feet along the northwest property boundary, whereas 1.8 meters or 5.9 feet is required. Further, the variance would permit the construction of a 37.2 square meter, 400 square foot addition, which is to be added to the front of the dwelling on the eastern portion of the property boundary. The variance requested would recognize the location of existing 77.66 square meters or 836 square feet dwelling with reduced interior side yard setbacks on the western property boundary and permit the construction of a 37.2 square meter, 400 square feet addition to the front yard or front of the existing dwelling on the eastern portion of the property. Recommendation. In consideration of the foregoing, the Planning Department supports application A2022, subject to the following conditions being applied. That all other provisions of the zoning bylaw 2003-60 be complied with, that the development will be consistent with the site plan and drawings provided with the application contained within Appendix A of this report, that if the lot grading around the existing dwelling apron will change, that an infill lot grading and drainage plan will be required, if required by the building department. That a road occupation permit shall be taken out for any works within the right-of-way, that a minimum of 1.10 meters interior side yard and setback of 1.18 meter interior side yard setback only apply to the western side of the existing dwelling, that the owner confirms that the areas and setbacks of the dwelling of the existing accessory structure shown on figure 2 conform with the zoning bylaw and or are otherwise brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw and provide that confirmation to the planning staff. Comments from Public Works. Public Works does not oppose the interior side yard setback reduction of 1.1 meters along the southwest property boundary. The reductions still allow for positive lot grading drainage improvements. Access to the rear yard is maintained with ample room on the northeastern property boundary. If the lot grading around the existing dwelling apron will change, Public Works recommends that an infill lot grading and drainage plan be required at the discretion of the building department. The plan would demonstrate that the proposed works can be constructed and or will not have a negative impact on stormwater drainage within the lot or neighboring lots and on the roadway. Any future development on the individual lots will be in accordance with the current Town of Wasaga Beach standards, as well as the infill lot grading and drainage policy. Further, a road occupation permit shall be taken out for any works within the right-of-way. Public comments. So we've received a couple public comments from the public, sorry. So I will read those out now. And Okay. Planning staff have received one letter in support of the application A2022 from Richard M. Gambin, noting that Kobe Investments, Inc., the owner of 132 Shorelane, supports the application for minor variance submitted by Ron Flair on behalf of the owner of Lot 60, Plan 695 Ursula Kuhn, file number A2022. Planning staff have received comments from Julian and Hyde Fidel of 128 Shorelane, who are opposed to the application for minor variance. A summary of their concerns are included below. Aesthetics of neighborhood will be affected, cutting down 75 to 100-year-old pine trees, impact to the visibility, pulling out of the driveway on heavily traveled pedestrian and bicycle routes. This will create a shaded property with no natural sunlight to 125 Shorelane for the house or front deck of this property. No sunlight will be able to provide for the perennial gardens at 125 Shorelane. This will change the look for Shorelane in a negative way. Do not want to see the future construction when they open their main access door. If a garage is to be built on the west side close to 133 Shorelane, this will not affect 125 Shorelane, only the applicant owner's residence. This will ensure natural light will shine on 125 Shorelane. Planning staff note that the proposed addition would maintain the required interior side yard setback along with the northern property boundary, as well as comply with both the front yard setback and the height provisions of the R1 residential type 1 zone. Through measurements using our County of Simcoe GIS, it appears that several dwellings exist on the opposite side of Shorelane with front yard setbacks that are smaller than the proposed 8.76 meters or 28.75 feet for the proposed addition. Thus, it is not anticipated that the proposed addition would have a significant impact on the standard of development in the neighborhood. Planning staff have also received comments from Linda Catella and Stuart Curry of 125 Shorelane, who are opposed to the proposed structure. A summary of their concerns are included below. The proposed structure is a very large garage with dimensions of 3.96 meters, 13 feet, by 9.4 meters, 30.83 feet, by 3.96 meters, 13 feet in height. A structure of these dimensions will dominate our front yard and block the afternoon sun, and our deck will be cast in shadow. The view from our deck will be lost to a 31-foot wall. Lots of beautiful pines. There is room on the western side of the garage that way my neighbor has her garage and we get to keep our view and sunshine. In addition to the above comments, Ms. Kettle and Mr. Curry provided 5 photos which they noted from their front deck and one from their side door. These photos can be found in Appendix 3. Following the posting of the July 2022 Committee of Adjustment agenda, Linda Catella and Stuart Curry provided further comments. Planning staff have summarized the comments received below. The owners of 125 Shorelane note that the existing driveway to 129 Shorelane on the western side, and that the drawings for the proposed addition show a new driveway on the eastern side, consequently requiring the removal of these trees from not only the owner's property, but Ms. Catella and Mr. Curry believe also from the town property. Concerned with who would be responsible for removing these trees and hope that it does not come out of the taxpayers' money. Ms. Catella and Mr. Curry quote the staff report from July 2022, to which it is noted through measurements using the County of Simcoe GIS, it appears that several dwellings exist on the opposite side of Shorelane with front yard setbacks that are smaller. The proposed 8.76 meters, 28.75 feet for the proposed addition. Thus, it is not anticipated that the proposed addition would have a significant impact on the standard of development in the neighborhood. Ms. Catella and Mr. Curry note that the properties on the other side of Shorelane are beachfront properties, and as such, these several dwellings i.e. garages, are in the rear of the properties. Ms. Catella and Mr. Curry note that the comparison between these beachfront properties and the proposed addition to 129 Shorelane would appear to be irrelevant. Ms. Catella and Mr. Curry note that the drawings indicate that their view looking west, standing in their front yard, will be a very large wall with a single tiny window in it. The owners of 125 Shorelane note that while the planning department may find that it is not anticipated that the proposed addition would have a significant impact on the standard of development in the neighborhood, they believe that the proposed structure will have a significant impact on the neighborhood, and they do not approve of it. So I believe that we have a couple more comments. So we have his letter of support. Just going to ask our planner, the July 7th ones, is it the ones that were in the report? Or these are the further ones? So since that report, we've also received other comments from Julian Fidao. So I'll read those out. They were sent on Thursday, August 11th. And it says, I do not agree with the request for variance. Concerns is the aesthetic of neighborhood will be affected, cutting down 50 to 100-year-old pine trees, impact to visibility, pulling out of driveway on heavily traveled pedestrian and bike path. This will create a shaded property with no natural sunlight to the 125 Shorelane for the house or front deck of this property. No sunlight for perennial gardens. This will change the look of the Shorelane in a negative way. If a garage is to be built on the west side close to 133 Shorelane, this will not affect 125 Shorelane, only the applicant owner's residence. This will ensure natural sunlight will shine on 125 Shorelane. It will also mean that the existing driveway can be used. To go ahead with the applicant owner's plan, the driveway will have to be moved from the west to the east side of the property and require the removal of town pine trees, which should not be cut down to accommodate the structure. J. Fidao, I believe is how you pronounce it. And Linda's comments from August 12th. So we received the following comments from Linda Catella of 125 Shorelane on August 12th. We'd like to participate in the virtual meeting on August 15th. Regarding the application for minor variance, we do not object to relief from the zoning bylaw to recognize the location of the existing dwelling with interior side yard setbacks of 1.18 meters along the southwest property boundary and 1.1 meters along the northwest property boundary where 1.8 meters is required. However, we do object to the construction of a 400 square foot garage addition dwelling at the front of the property at 129 Shorelane. Trees and proposed new driveway. The existing driveway at 129 Shorelane is on the western side. The drawings for the proposed addition show the new driveway on the eastern side, which requires the removal of several pines from not only the owner's property, but also the town property. The owner of 129 Shorelane has already removed several trees from her property, which is her right. However, there's at least 2, perhaps 3 mature pine trees on the town property that would need to be removed if this proposal is approved and the driveway relocated. Trees are valuable natural investment. Our section of Shorelane was once called Pine Drive for a good reason. And it says, from the Department of Public Works general policies in the town plan. Trees are a big investment. They add value to property, improve air and water quality, provide energy savings, and are home to many animals native to our area. Trees intercept water and store some of it, reducing stormwater runoff and the possibility of flooding. A typical medium-sized tree can intercept as much as 2,380 gallons of rainfall per year. And mature trees contribute to the character of an area. We strongly oppose the proposed garage and driveway relocation, especially if it requires removal of any town trees. Town trees in question are shown in red on the photo above, excuse me, on the photo below, an existing driveway on the eastern side. Significant impact. In the staff report, after the public comments, it says, through measurements using the County of Simcoe GIS, it appears that several dwellings exist on the opposite side of Shorelane with front yard setbacks that are similar than the proposed 8.76 meters or 28.75 feet for the proposed addition. Thus, it is not anticipated that for the proposed addition would have a significant impact on the standard of development in the neighborhood. This is an argument for the approval of the proposed addition. The properties on the opposite side of Shorelane are beachfront properties, and as such, these several dwellings, i.e. garages, at the rear of their properties. The comparison between these beachfront properties and the proposed addition to 129 Shorelane would appear to be irrelevant. And I just have a couple more here. Impact on neighborhood and safety. In the staff report under desirable and appropriate development of land, the planning department says, and to permit construction of the proposed garage laundry room addition should not impact the neighborhood. It will, however, reduce, and she notes it will, however, reduce visibility of pedestrians and vehicles traveling along Shorelane. It is not clear from the drawings what the exact distance will be from the garage door to Shorelane, but safety needs to be addressed. The garage will be an obstacle when navigating in and out of our residents. Immediate impact on Shorelane, on 125 Shorelane. The proposed garage addition dwelling is very large indeed. If approved, our view looking west from our deck and front yard will be of it only a wall approximately 13 feet high, extending 30 feet along our northeast boundary toward the road. It will cast a huge shadow blocking our existing view and sunlight. Our front yard will be dominated by the proposed structure. We believe the proposed structure will have a significant impact on our lives and the enjoyment we derive from living in our neighborhood. I've included photos from our deck. In addition is approved, this view will be a wall. From our side door, the view will also be 30-foot extension, 13 feet. And that concludes the comments. And I guess at this point, we'd ask if the applicant would like to add anything further to what I've spoken to.
Well, a lot of familiar faces. Nice to see it. This is much better than doing on Zoom thing anyways. Just a little introduction. My name is Ron Fleer. I've been architectural designer for over 40 some odd years and been here in front of you committee members and many times. For this applicant, much of Wasaga Beach was built, years ago. They built wherever they wanted, pretty much. Now it doesn't conform. Some of these structures do not conform to our new bylaws, basically. Having said that, we're only asking for the variance, so our non-complying existing structure is to be deemed legally non-compliant. From the comments from the neighbors, it's obvious that to actually attach a garage to the west side, well, you want to have everything all line up perfect. So we decided to put it on the east side, so we'd have the be within our bylaw or side yard bylaws, and we still got plenty of room from the front, from the garage door to the front property line. I don't know if everybody's been on site there. Those pine trees, they're almost ready to go anyways. So they're white pines, they're pretty tall, and in my experience here in Wasaga, yeah, I'd be taking them down, and they don't create a lot of shade there. So just trying to address some of the neighbors' comments. I really don't see any kind of big issue. Why not? We're trying to stay within the bylaws and just to make sure that, you know, everything goes through fine.
Your mic, Ron?
Ron?
Yeah, your mic's on. Okay. Are there anyone else have any comments or questions to add to this? Yes.
Through the chair. Ron, just to clarify, that the setback from the garage to the road is within the, oh, it's 30 feet, so you have lots of room there. Okay, that's my only question.
No, some of the concerns are backing onto that so-called goat path. I took that bike trail many a times, you know, and it can get pretty busy during the summertime. Wintertime, it's kind of hectic, you know, like there's not that much room there. However, because we're only 30 feet, well, we are a little more than 30 feet, that gives us sufficient room to drive straight in and back out, still being on their property, and to get back on the Shorelane. So, you know, the safety thing of backing straight out onto the street, you know, that's kind of the hazardous thing, and I think that's what the neighbors were all concerned about. But there's still lots of room to, you know, back out of the garage, or for that matter, even back into the garage, you know, safely.
Anyone else? Any questions? Ron, just before we go on, a couple of things. One is I understand that house was built in 1958, and the side yards were different than what they are today. So from what I see there, I think you're trying to keep that line of that house coming out with the garage in line with the existing. Yeah. Okay. Now, there's a garage, and then there's a laundry room. That's the addition, right? Yes. Okay. Now, the driveway, is the driveway going to come straight out to the garage, or will you have a turnaround spot? Okay, thanks. Now, is there anyone else has any comments on this particular file?
No, those are the comments there, unless there's anybody in Zoom. So maybe we should ask them. Yeah. Andrew, is there anyone left in the Zoom call, or? There are people on there. There are? Okay. No? Okay, so there's nobody, just to be clear, there's nobody in our Zoom call today that would like to say anything in regards to the application A2022, 129 Shorelane? No? Okay.
So would someone like to move?
I'll move to accept.
I can second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you.
And we'll pass around the decision to be signed.
So moving along now to 5.3, A2222.
All right. File number A2222, Craig McEwen, 1888 River Road West. And the subject land is municipally addressed as 1888 River Road West and legally described as concession 16, con 16, part lot 6, RP 51R 534, part 1, PT. The surrounding neighborhood is made up of single detached dwellings with some vacant lots. The subject land has a frontage of approximately 31.37 meters, 102.9 feet on River Road West, a depth of approximately 79.69 meters or 261.45 feet, and an area of approximately 1,297.5 square meters or 13,966.17 or 13,966.17 square feet. The property contains an existing single detached dwelling on non-complying detached garage and an accessory shed structure. The subject property is regulated by the Nbca. Application. The applicant requests relief from section 3.23.3 of zoning bylaw 2003-60 as amended, to recognize the location of the existing dwelling with an interior side yard setback of 1.7 meters, 5.10 feet along the northeastern property boundary, 1.68 meters, 5.5 feet along the southeastern property boundary, and 1.75 meters, 5.73 feet along the northwest property boundary. In addition to the above, the applicant requests further relief from section 4.3.5 of the residential type 1 R1 zone of zoning bylaw 2003-60 as amended to permit the construction of a new basement addition that would maintain the existing interior side yard setback of 1.7 meters, 5.10 feet along the northeastern property boundary, 1.68 meters, 5.5 feet along the easterly property boundary, and 1.75 meters, 5.73 feet along the northwest property boundary, whereas 1.8 meters, 5.9 feet is required. Further to the above, the applicant requests additional relief from section 3.3.3 yard encroachments to permit a deck projection of 1.8 meters, 5.9 feet into the interior side yard on the east side of the dwelling, whereas a deck may project into a required interior side yard a maximum distance of 0.9 meters, 2.95 feet, provided that the deck is not more than 0.6 meters above finished grade. The variances requested would recognize the existing dwelling with reduced interior side yard setbacks on both sides, reduced interior side yards on both the east and west property boundaries and permit the construction of a new basement addition that would maintain the existing interior side yard setbacks. Additionally, the variance would permit the existing deck to encroach 1.8 meters into the required interior side yard on the eastern property boundary. And I will read, we do have some comments from the Nbca dated July 13th, 2022, and this summary is, to summarize as follows. The Nbca has requested the applicant provide a scalable drawing which accurately determines the appropriate limits of the development by illustrating the following items: the floodplain limit plus the 15-meter allowance. The regional flood elevation is 179.41 of the subject property. The erosion hazard limit, which should include the 6-meter access allowance. The Nbca requests that the erosion hazard be evaluated by a qualified professional and that the opening of elevation heights for the dwelling and the proposed basement be identified in the drawings. The MVCA has recommended that the application be deferred until the applicant provides the appropriate information that supports the development based on the MVCA Natural Hazards Technical Guide in conformity to the provincial policy statement, the PPS, to ensure that the proposed development is located outside of any designated hazard lands. Specifically, the formal comments note that the applicant provide the MVCA with natural hazard assessments to ensure conformity to the above noted policies and regulations of the Conservation Authority. A copy of the MVCA's formal comments have been attached to this report as Appendix 1. Recommendation for deferral. Based on the foregoing, the planning department staff or the town planning staff respectfully recommend that the Committee of Adjustment defer making a decision on this variance application A2222 at this time so that the applicant can provide the above noted additional information to the NVCA. And is there anybody that would like to speak to it from Zoom? Is there any questions from the committee members?
So the recommendation is to defer till we get that more information on this file. So I think we have someone could move that we defer this application for a future date.
I will move that we defer this to a different date.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Next application is 5.4. Thank you.
Okay, 51522 and A2122 for the address, the property located at 1433 River Road West. Plan 966 Lot 35, municipally addressed as 1433 River Road West, Town Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe. Purpose and effect. An application has been submitted by Jim and Christina Dice, owner of the subject lands. The application proposes to create one new residential building lot for a total of 2 residential building lots. The portion of the property to be severed, as shown on the surveyor's sketch as Part 1, has a frontage of 18.29 meters or 60 feet along River Road West, a depth of approximately 31.7 meters, 104 feet along Silver Birch Avenue, and an area of approximately 573.8 square meters or 6177 square feet. The portion of the property to be retained, as shown on the surveyor sketch as Part 2, has a frontage of approximately 29.26 meters or 96 feet along Silver Birch Avenue, a depth of approximately 18.29 meters, 60 feet, and an area of approximately 533.8 square meters or 5,746.4 square feet. The land subject to this application for consent is currently the subject of an application for minor variance, A2122. The recommendation, in consideration of the foregoing based on the above, the planning department supports application B1522, subject to the following conditions being applied. The applicant provide the following monies to the municipality: that all outstanding municipal fees, taxes, and charges, including local improvement charges, be paid out in full, and that the parkland dedication contribution, 5% of parkland contribution as required by the Planning Act, be paid as a requirement of the approval of the severance, the parcel severed. That the lower tier portion of the existing two-tier deck located on the southwest corner of the proposed retained parcel be removed. That the existing shed located in the northeast corner of the proposed retained parcel be relocated to the interior side yard or rear yard while maintaining full compliance with the town's zoning bylaw 2003-60 as amended. That the applicant provides a registered reference plan. Said reference plan should plan to show all the parcel to be severed and all of the parcels to be retained. That the applicant provides a lot grading and drainage plan prepared by a qualified professional for the severed and retained parcels to the satisfaction of the municipality, and any future development on the individual lots will be in accordance with the current Town of Wasaga Beach infill lot grading and drainage policy if required. That a road occupation permit shall be taken out for any works within the right-of-way if required. That the approval of application B1522 be contingent on the approval of application A2122, and that the applicant provide municipal water and that the applicant provide municipal water and sewer to both the severed and retained parcels to the specification and location satisfactory to the Town of Wasaga Beach if required. That all sanitary services have a 200 millimeter clean out inspection port installed at street property as per the town engineering standards, drawing A12A, that any future development on the property maintain full compliance with section 3.4.1 of the zoning bylaw as to ensure that the property's site triangle remain unobstructed. This would include that a driveway use not be permitted within the identified site triangle area. That all conditions of this decision be fulfilled in the documents presented to the planning department for issuance of the certificate of consent within a period of not exceeding 24 months from the date of decision. In consideration of the foregoing, based on the above, the planning department supports application A2122 with the subject to the following conditions being applied. That the severance sought by application for consent B1122 be granted, and that the severance be completed. That all other provisions of the zoning bylaw be complied with. That any future development on the lots will adhere to the Town of Wasaga Beach standards and policies. That the relief associated with the front and rear yard setbacks of the proposed retained parcel applies to the existing dwelling only. That the applicant provides a lot grading and drainage plan prepared by a qualified professional for the severed and retained parcels to the satisfaction of the municipality, and any future development on the individual lots will be in accordance with the current Town of Wasaga Beach infill lot grading and drainage policy if required. That a road occupation permit shall be taken out for any works within the right-of-way if required. That an infill lot grading and drainage plan be submitted to by the applicant to the town for review and approval at the discretion of the building department if required. And we received comments from Public Works, and they're summarized by the planner as follows. Comments from Public Works Engineering have indicated that the existing municipal water and sewer service connection, which currently services the property recognized as the proposed retained lot, will cross over the proposed severed parcel as a result of the proposed severance application. Therefore, as a condition of the approval for application B1522, the town's Public Works Engineering have required that the applicant either create a legal easement on title to permit the private sewer to the existing dwelling to cross over the proposed severed parcel, or the existing services should be disconnected from the dwelling on the proposed retained lot and decommissioned, removed from the proposed severed lot, with 2 new sets of services installed on Silver Birch Avenue for each parcel. Planning staff recommend that the applicant install 2 new sets of services on Silver Birch Avenue as per the town's Public Works Engineering Department's recommendation. As an additional condition of approval, the Engineering and Public Works Department has indicated that a service sketch is required to clarify the location of all sets of services relative to the new dimensions and proposed lot lines. This may be outlined on the infill lot grading and drainage plan or on a water and sewage service record form, included with the road occupation permit application. With any existing or proposed sanitary service will require a 200 millimeter diameter sanitary service cleanout inspection port to be installed at street property line as per the town engineering standards drawing number 12A. The Public Works Engineering Department has further recommended that a daylight triangle of 4 meters by 4 meters wide at the north property corner abutting River Road West and Silver Birch Avenue be dedicated to the town as to ensure that the property site triangle remain unobstructed. Planning staff require that as a condition of approval that any future development on the property maintain full compliance with section 3.4.1 of the zoning bylaw as to ensure that the property site triangle remain unobstructed. This would include the driveway use not be permitted within the identified site triangle area. In consideration of the above, Planning Department supports this application B1522 and A2122 for the lands municipally addressed as 1062 River Road East. Should the committee choose to approve applications B1522 and A2122, planning staff recommend this approval also be subject to the above noted conditions.
Anybody have any comments or questions?
This is Brian Dice. I don't know if this is my chance to do this or if we wait.
And sorry, you are with?
The applicant.
Oh, the applicant. Yeah, go ahead, Brian, if you have anything to say or if you'd like to have any comments or questions.
Sure, thanks. We had a chance to look through all the documents and don't have any questions or any of the comments. We've already taken steps to comply with a few of the comments already. We've taken the shed down. It's been moved off the property. That's one of the conditions. And the other condition was to remove a deck at the rear of the retained lot, and that has been removed as well. So we are looking forward to the severance going through and hope that you put it through. And if you have any questions, let us know.
The only question I have is the recommendation of Public Works or the Works Department is to put the sanitary off of Silver Birch, correct?
That is correct. We have been talking back and forth with Trevor and Mark, and it was decided they had put that both the services come in off of Silver Birch, and we've talked to them and discussed that proceeding with only the new service coming in off of Silver Birch for the retained lot at the back and leaving the existing service that's coming in for the severed lot at the front. So just to save some cost on that.
So on the part 2 will come off of Silver Birch, and part 1, the existing sanitary and water will be utilized.
That's correct. We'll be utilizing that for the future development of the severed lot. And we'd be putting the clean out and everything there, accommodating that.
And at this point, Mr. Chair, would we like to just ask the planner if that's his understanding as well?
Okay, anything from that side?
Nothing to add. I'll just say on the behalf of planning staff that we acknowledge the comments that the applicant has provided, and we're fully aware of the configuration of the servicing, and that's in compliance with the recommendations of the Engineering and Public Works Department. So it does comply with what they're recommending.
Okay, so from our group here, can someone move this forward? I think there's two different applications down the road, but for this one we're talking about now is the severance of this.
I think it's
Through the chair, so there's essentially two applications involved with this consent proposal. There's the proposal for the consent that we're looking at, so the lot creation, as well as a minor variance application, which is recognizing the deficient setbacks of the existing dwelling on the proposed retained parcel. So the two applications are bundled into this particular application.
So that'd be 1522 and 2122. Okay, so there's two applications. Good point that we're talking about. So do we do one first and?
Yeah, I don't think it matters which one.
Someone like to move on 1522 application?
I move to accept.
Seconder? Yeah.
Yeah, I move to second that with the conditions as noted.
Okay, all those in favor? Miss? And now we'll go to A20. Nope. Okay, trying to get ahead of the boat here. Just a minute. Okay, in addition to it's the same property, the second one application was A2122, and we need a mover, seconder on that one.
Move to accept.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Unanimous?
All right, thank you today for joining us today, and you guys are welcome to either stick around for the rest of the meeting, or you're welcome to leave now as well.
Thank you very much, everyone.
You're welcome.
So next one coming up is 5.5.
Okay, so application A2322, 65 Waterview, Mike Draper. Land subject to this application. So Plan 51M961, Lot 40, municipally addressed as 65 Waterview Road, Town of Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe. The subject lands have a frontage of approximately 15 meters, 49.29 feet, a depth of approximately 34 meters, 111.55 feet, and an area of approximately 553 square meters, or 5,952 square feet. Purpose and effect, and a variance requested. An application for minor variance A2322 was submitted by Mike Draper, owner of the subject lands. The application requests relief from Section 4, our residential type 1 zoning provisions of the comprehensive zoning bylaw 2003-60 as amended. Specifically, the applicant requests relief from Section 4.4.13 to allow for an increased lot coverage of 45%, whereas 43% is permitted. The variance requested would permit the construction of a 39.38 square meter deck within the rear yard, the effect of which would permit an increase in a total lot coverage for the all buildings and structures from the permitted 43 to 45%. Recommendation. In consideration of the foregoing, the planning staff supports application A2322. At the time of writing the staff recommendation report to the committee, planning staff have not received comments from the Nbca. Should the committee choose to approve this application, A2322, planning staff recommend this approval also be subject to Nbca comments and approval, and the subject to the following conditions be applied: that all provisions of the zoning bylaw 2003-60 be complied with, that the development will be consistent with the site plan and drawings provided with the application contained within Appendix A of this report, that the proposed deck development on the subject lot will be in accordance with the current Town of Wasaga Beach standards, as well as the infill lot grading and drainage policy if applicable, and that the applicant obtain necessary MVCA permit and approval and provide confirmation to the satisfaction of the building department if required. Comments from Public Works include: Public Works does not oppose the applicant's request to increase the lot coverage from the maximum 43 to 45%, as is marginal. Further, according to the development, lot grading as constructed plans, storm water runoff from the subject lot is managed with rear yard graded towards the bay and common lot line swales. The proposed deck, as shown in the provided sketch, does not appear to affect any existing stormwater drainage. Any future developments on the subject lot will be in accordance with the Town of Wasaga Beach standards, and as well as the infill lot grading and drainage policy. Since this report, I note that we have received Nbca comments, and I will read them aloud now. Dated August 11th, the Nbca has reviewed this application for a minor variance, which would facilitate the construction of a deck on an existing dwelling. The application requests an increase in permitted lot coverage on the property based upon our mandate and policies under the Conservation Authorities Act. We have no objection to the approval of this application. We advise that the property is under regulatory jurisdiction of the Nbca due to the adjacent shoreline hazard associated with the Nottawasaga Bay. A development interference with the wetlands and alterations to the shorelines and water courses permit it therefore required if proposed deck is therefore required if the proposed deck is covered or enclosed. Thank you for circulating this, and please forward a copy of any decisions. Davin Metherell, Planner 1.
Anybody have any comments? Is there anyone else who would like to speak about this matter? Okay, we've heard the application. Would someone like to move and second it?
Move to accept.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Next, we're going to go to 5.6.
Application number 6, B1622, 67 45th Street South.
So anybody have a conflict of interest or would like to abstain?
I do.
Okay, land subject to the application. So concession 15, part lot 1, RP 51R 30556, part 2, municipally addressed as 6740 5th Street South, Town Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe. An application submitted by Zelinka Priamo Limited on behalf of Canadian Tire Properties, Inc., owner of subject land. The purpose of the application is to permit a lease extension between the owner and Canadian Tire Real Estate Limited for a period of 21 years or greater. The portion of the property subject to the application for consent for lease shown as lands to be severed on sketch provided, inclusive of all buildings, has an area of approximately 24,300 square feet or 261563.02 square feet. Comments. The Public Works Department has reviewed the application for consent and does not oppose the applicant's request. A summary of Public Works comments can be found with Appendix 1 of this staff report. The NVCA has reviewed the application for consent and does not object to the approval of the application. Recommendation. Planning staff recommend that the application for consent for lease does not contravene the official plan policies nor the zoning bylaw for the town of Wasaga Beach, and that it would not be considered an attempt to undermine the Planning Act. Considering the foregoing, planning staff support application B1622 provided the following conditions of approval are applied. That the applicant provide the following monies to the municipality, that any outstanding municipal fees, taxes, and charges be paid out in full, that the applicant provide a registered reference plan. Said reference plan should show all of the parcels to be severed and all of the parcels to be retained, that the applicant provide the approval authority with a general document schedule describing the leased lands for use for the issuance of a certificate of consent, that all conditions of this decision be fulfilled and the documents presented to the planning department for issuance of the certificate of consent within a period not exceeding 24 months from the date of decision.
Any questions from anyone?
And is there anyone in the Zoom call that would like to? No?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Harry Frusios. I'm with Zelinka Priamo Limited. We're the applicants and agents for the landowner for this application. We're just here to thank staff for processing this application. We agree with the recommendation and here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the members? Could we have a mover on the application?
I'll move this application with the conditions as listed by the town.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Sure. For those attending, not attending in person, we voted on it. It's been approved. Thank you.
Thank you, committee members.
So now we're ready for 5.7? Good.
All right, and the last application on the agenda today is B1722, 1062 River Road East. And land subject to the application. The subject lands are legally described as Lot 29, Plan 721, and municipally addressed as 1062 River Road East, Town of Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe. Purpose and effect of the application. An application for consent has been submitted by Abby Javadinia on behalf of Demetrius Dalios and Hede Javandia, owners of the subject land. The application proposes to create an easement over the lands legally described as Plan 721, Lot 29. The proposed easement would grant access to install a new sanitary sewer connection to the benefiting parcel, which is legally described as Plan 721, Lot 21. The registered easement would have an approximate frontage of 3 meters or 9.8 feet, a depth of approximately 42.73 meters, 140 feet, and an overall area of approximately 128.72 square meters or 1,385.5 square feet. The servicing easement is required as a sanitary sewer connection is not currently available on Eastdale Drive to service the proposed benefiting parcel on a legally existing lot, Lot 2721. Recommendation. In consideration of the foregoing, based on the above, the planning staff supports application B1722 subject to the following conditions being applied. That any existing and or proposed sanitary services will require a 200 millimeter diameter sanitary service cleanout inspection port to be installed at street property line as per the town engineering standards drawing 12A. That any future development on the individual lots will be in accordance with the current town of Wasaga Beach standards as well as the infill lot grading and drainage policy, that a road occupation permit shall be taken out for any works within the right-of-way, that the applicant provide a registered reference plan and said reference plan to show land subject to the easement and all the parcel to be retained, that all conditions of this decision be fulfilled and the documents presented to the planning department for issuance of the certificate of consent within a period not exceeding 24 months from the date of decision. Comments. Comments from the Nbca were not available at the time of writing this recommendation report to committee. Therefore, planning staff reserve the right to speak to committee on further comments and or conditions received from the Nbca as an addendum to the original staff report. The town's Public Works and Engineering Department do not oppose this applicant's request to create a registered easement subject to the conditions outlined in Appendix A.
Is there anyone in particular has any questions about this particular application?
Abby, can you hear us? Do you have anything else that you'd like?
Yes, yes, I do.
Yes.
With regards to the NVCA, we've gotten no report from them at this point. Is that correct?
Through the chair, we haven't received any additional comments from the MVCA.
Should we not defer this application until we get those comments?
Can I add something here, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, I applied already for water because it's in Easter Road. Nobody even asked me to do anything with MVCA because this easement we are establishing is in a lot toward the River Road East. It's not toward the lake. I don't know what is the relationship here with MVCA. Plus, we're not cutting any trees. We are not damaging anything. It's just coming through the front lawn to driveway going to the back. That's all it is. And I already applied for the water, which they're going to Committee of Adjustment. I don't even understand that. That's already took 5 months. And if you refer this, I don't know how many 5 months more we have to wait for MVCA.
I would just add, pardon me, through the chair, that the existing lot fabric isn't changing in this case. The existing lots aren't changing. It's simply the easement that's being installed, just for the record.
So I guess I don't understand why we don't wait for the NVCA report before we make a decision here. Am I not on? Our previous application, we waited for that report before we made a decision. So it seems kind of cart before the horse to me to make a decision here before we get the report from the NVCA. If it's, and I'm assuming that the lot is covered by the NVCA. It's not, it's part of the, so I don't know, is there any comments from staff on that?
I don't think the lot toward the road is covered by MVCA as far as I know.
Normally on these, when these applications come in, we approach all authorities that might have an input or an opinion on this kind of stuff. So NVCA could very well have an opinion and they would substantiate. But I think in part of this letter is that they said we could look at this, but if the NVCA has any comments or any corrections to be done, they have to be considered as part of this. So if they were to find if they were to find something that had to be inserted, they would make it part of that before it would go on. So we're still talking about this here.
Through the chair, an alternate recommendation that I would have would be to add an additional comment, or pardon me, an additional condition to this report to, in this case, you could approve the application contingent on receiving the MVCA approval as a second step.
And then if there were any conditions by them, that would be part of the process of the approval.
That's correct.
So I understand your concern about deferring it because we don't have all the information. However, does this apply that we can vote on it? And if it is successful and if there is something that comes out from the NCV, it's going to be part of it.
Through the chair, if you were to add an additional condition which specifies that the approval is contingent on receiving the appropriate information from the MVCA, indicating that the application meets their qualifications, then you could still approve the application.
I rather this part because to be at least put a condition when then committee is done and they're in favor. That would be the way better, for my understanding.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration, but I think two things. One is if it was to be deferred, would it be deferred for a month or would it be 2 months?
Through the chair, in this case, it would be deferred until the comments are available from the NBCA, and we would have the report available for the next possible meeting date.
I don't know you guys ever dealt with NBCA, how that department works. It's one of the worst place in
Sorry,
government
Mr. Abbey.
jobs.
Sorry. Yeah, we won't comment on that.
I'm sorry anyway. I'm sorry.
So I think at this point, we first have to have a mover and a seconder on it, on the application, and so let's start with that. And just before we do go, I have one more question. From what I understand, this is coming in from River Road East and going to service a property on Eastdale, correct?
Correct.
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, now that means there's going to be all the way through, because the property is owned by one identity, there won't be any other severances allowed on this property, correct?
Through the chair, in this case, pardon me, in addition to what's being proposed in this current application, your question is there an opportunity for future severances?
That's my question.
In this case, pardon me, that there wouldn't be an opportunity for another future severance on this property. That's correct.
And my concern is because you're going to have an easement from River Road down to this property to service it. That's the whole idea, put the sanitary and the water down there, right? To get it closer to the water, closer to the bay. So what I don't want to see is that what I'd like not to see is that there's not an easement going through this property and another property severed off this. It's just for the one property.
And through the chair, just to confirm, these are two legally existing lots. This isn't one consolidated lot in this case. They're both legally existing already, the proposed and retained, just to be clear.
This easement present a problem down the road?
Pardon me, through the chair, is there a specific issue that you're looking to see clarification on?
Two things. One is we've got this large property, and if we run the sanitary and the water through that property, there has to be an easement, correct? So
Correct.
Someone can't build on top of that easement down the road. It's got to be. So so from what I see, what I think I see here is this easement can go through, but there'll be no buildings or anything fronting onto River Road. There's only going to be one building on this property.
Through the chair, the Public Works and Engineering Department would have specific requirements with regards to building on a legal existing easement. There is one subsection in General 3 of the zoning bylaw which speaks to easements, but that doesn't speak to setbacks, or it doesn't comment on the ability to build on an easement. That would be at the discretion of the Public Works and Engineering Department.
From the owner of the property there, is there any more future plans, or is this just get that easement back there so you can service the property back there?
I should answer. Are you asking me to answer, please?
Yes, please.
Well, there won't be anything else. Plus, this is one lot. There is already building in it. There is garage in it. I don't think even there is a room there as far as it is. And then, as far as I know, with my little knowledge, normally on easement, nobody allowed to build anything anyway.
Okay, we're going to discuss it here. Thank you.
Sure, thanks.
What happens in the event that the NBCA has objections to the application? Does it come back here at some point? Is that how it works, or is there some other? Does it just fall through and that's the end of it?
So through you, Mr. Chair, so if there was a condition that they would have to satisfy or obtain an NBCA permit, if there was issues along the way, they would not be able to obtain that permit and it would null itself. they wouldn't be able to satisfy those conditions within a 2-year period. If the NBCA came back and they had no concerns with the ability to fulfill that, they would be able to issue the permit within the 2-year timeline, and all other conditions, assuming, would be able to be fulfilled as well. So it would be contingent on the NBCA.
So would it be possible that if it was approved and NVCA came back, would there be an argument that the town approved it, but they didn't approve it, and who has the jurisdiction here?
At that point, they would be unable to have obtained that NVCA permit, and so they won't have fulfilled all conditions from the town's recommendation, and it would have lapsed itself through that recommendation. So if the NVCA has objections to being able to fulfill the permit approval, we won't have the permit, and that condition won't be fulfilled. Ergo, the conditions won't be finalized, and we won't have the consent go through.
Okay, so as a committee, if we approve this, they still have to meet all that, and if they don't meet all that, it's still not going to be doable until they reach all those based on the information the staff has given us today. Is that's what we're making our recommendations on?
That's correct.
It still seems backwards to me, because you could do any report from any department and defer just and make a decision based on those other reports coming in positive. To me, it seems that we should get those reports first before we make a decision to approve. In either case, it won't go forward unless the NBCA does approve. So to me, we should be waiting for the NBCA to approve it, then come back here. We have all the information we need, and we make a decision. It seems the proper way to me to do it.
This is just my opinion, so through the chair. So my opinion is that it sounds like Abby, the applicant here, has spent a significant amount of time trying to get his application approved by going through various departments. In the interest of time, I'm fully supportive of moving forward with granting this application with the amendment that he get approval from the NVCA.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. I think that he has spent a considerable amount of time, and he's fulfilled everything that the town has required. So there's no reason not to pass this conditional, of course, and that makes it a binding situation that he meets all the NVCA, whatever requirements they have. So I'm voting to go ahead and give them the approval, but again, based on the conditions being met, if there are any that the NVCA has, and that would bind everything together from a legal point of view.
Okay, so I think on 5.7 we need a mover and a seconder.
So I will move it with the addition or the amendment to get NVCA approval.
And I second it under the same condition.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, at the opposed? Okay, thank you. 4 to 1, 4, and 1 opposed. Thank you.
As far as them making it conditional on the NVCA report, should we put a time frame on that? In other words, there's a period of condition, like, do we know how long they're going to take to respond? Should we put a time frame on that condition? I would think it would be wise. Pardon me?
That's 24 months after the decision is made to fulfill the conditions. So that's, yeah, so if it's a condition that, if there's any comments from.
The committee has approved it, and we're still waiting for the approval of the conservation. So for all intents and purposes, the committee has approved it here.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. I just have a suggestion, if it's possible, that city send a letter regarding to this matter to Nbca, because they will pay more attention if it's the letter from the city, not from me.
At this point, we have a waiver protocol we'll follow. So we will follow up because we know that could be something that might slow us down.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our next meeting date?
Next meeting is September the 19th. We'll go through and that's her. So we're gonna, do we need someone to move that we have an adjournment? No? Okay. So we'll have an adjournment. Great, thank you.
Thanks again.